I'm going to show you how to take apart, clean, lube, and reassemble a Sturmey Archer 3-speed hub. Most of the 3-speed hubs are relatively similar. They've changed a little bit over the years, but again, they're mostly pretty similar. This one is from 1974 according to the little date stamp on there. I'm going to start off by moving these little nuts, washers, and little spacers from the end here. And it's helpful if you lay them aside and lay them out in the order that you took them off. Then flip the wheel over and remove the little nut. Pull this off. And pull that off. Okay, I want to remove this sprocket, and there's this little ring around here holding this thing on. So I want to go ahead and find the end of the wire here and use one of these little notches here. Try to pry this out using a small flat tip screwdriver, and then slowly lift this ring off. There. And then I should be able to just lift the sprocket off. And notice the round part is facing out. Where it's curved up is facing out. And set that aside. Then right below the sprocket there are two little spacers, and so pull those out. For this next part I'm going to use a vise, and what I'm going to do is clamp the axle in there. The axle has two flat sides, and so I'm going to clamp that in there loosely, just enough to hold it to keep it from turning. And so I'm going to start with the side that had the sprocket on it facing down. Remove this little lock nut here. So there's a lock nut, a spacer, and then a cone. Then go ahead and turn the wheel over. Now, using a punch and a hammer, I'm going to use one of these little notches. There's a notch on this side, notch on this side. I'm going to use the punch and the hammer to unscrew this, basically turn it counterclockwise, and it may be tight or it may not. Oh, this one's kind of loose. Get it turning, and then you unscrew this like that. And now we can just go ahead and remove this whole thing from hub body. Now you want to be careful. There's two little pins here that hold the pawls in. These are loose in there, so you want to make sure that you do not lose those at this point. Okay, I want to remove this little lock nut here, which seems to be about a 15 millimeter. Move that. Then there's a little lock washer here, and the little lock part faces down. Set that aside. And then underneath that is a cone. And this part here is spring-loaded, so it's kind of pushing up. So go ahead and remove this cone. You can kind of hold this part down, makes it a little easier. So here's the cone. Set that aside. And then you've got this part here. This is the driver. Let's go ahead and set that aside. Now there's a little part here. Don't lose that. And then remove the clutch spring. And at this point I can go ahead and pull this off. Actually, there's a couple parts here. There's this part here. And then this part here, and it's got the pawls. And it's got this part here, and there's a couple of notches facing down. Now there's a little pin here, and notice that these little flat sides are facing up, and it's threaded right in the middle. So at this point, this whole thing can slide up. There's this part here. And then this part here, and it's got the planetary gears in there. And there's the sun gear. And there, it's basically all apart. Okay, I have the driver here, and there's a ring of bearings in there, and there's a little retainer part holding them in, and I need to get that off. It seems to be really tight. So what I'm going to do is put this into a vise, kind of hold it, and then see if I can pry this thing off. Oh. See if I can get it in there a little. I want to be careful not to damage it. There we go. And work your way around it. And then there's the bearings there. Okay, I want to pull the bearings out of this here. This has like a little cap, and I can use a screwdriver just to kind of pry this cap up carefully. And don't lose any bearings, because you want to get a count of how many bearings are in there so that you can replace them all. Let's get the little retainer part off of there. And these seem to be 3/16 inch bearings. And then one more set of bearings to pull out here. This is in the hub here. Like, pop out a little retainer there, and there's another set of bearings there. Now the planetary gears can be removed simply by lifting up these little pins and sliding them out. Just like that. And then there's these little pawls here. You can push these pins out here. And be careful, there's like a little spring in there. Pull a little pin out. And there's the little spring there. There's like a little wire spring. I don't know if you can see it there. And push this out. Like here. And there's that. Just be real careful with those. Don't lose those little springs there. And so now you got this completely taken apart. Now if you're an expert on these things, you can go ahead and just take all these parts, dump them into a bin, clean them, and put them back together again. But if you're not, what I recommend is cleaning the parts one at a time or small batches and then putting them back together so that you don't get all the parts confused. So I have some paint thinner here, or mineral spirits, and I'm going to use that to clean all the parts and get rid of all the old grease on them. Be careful not to lose any parts, especially those little springs there. Okay, I'm ready to put this thing back together now. The first thing I'm going to do is put the pawls in. Now the pawls, there's a short side and a long side. The long side is going to be facing out. There's also there's a slight slope on one edge of the long side. On this side there's no little slope there, and on this side there's a slight slope, and this slope, when you put it in there, is going to be facing out here. And then there's the little wire spring here. This is going to go to the bottom of the pawl as we put it in here, and then there's a little part that comes up on the spring that's going to go to the back. So I'm going to set this right here for now. I'm going to put a drop of oil on the pin, a drop of Phil's Tenacious oil. It's kind of a heavy, thick oil, kind of sticky for an oil. Put that on there. Grab the pawl, try to line the spring up with the hole there. Put this into place here and insert the pin and try to get it down through both the pawl and the spring there. And then if I get it all in there, this should be nice and springy there, just like that. So again, I'm going to take the second pawl. Long side faces out. I got the slope here. The slope is going to be on the top side. Take the pin, drop of oil here. Get the spring all lined up with the hole. It's going to go on the bottom and to the back of the pawl. Get the pin all lined up there, and then test that there just like that. And I don't know if you can see it in the light there, but there's a slight slope coming down in here. This will make it easier to insert later on, and also the shape of the pawl at the end there catches better. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and be careful that these little pins here don't fall out. And I'm going to go ahead and put the planetary gears in. What you want to do, just go ahead and put the planetary gear in, and then there's a pin. Just go ahead and put a little bit of oil on the pin and insert the pin. It just sets it into place like that. The smaller diameter side is going to go in facing up. So just put a little bit of oil there. Put the planetary gear in and drop that in, and the pin should just drop down into place. Like that. And one last one. Just a little bit of oil there. Put the planetary gear in, drop that in, and that's all put together. Those little pins should stick up like that. They're going to be grabbing onto the clutch. Okay, here's some more pawls here. So we'll go ahead and push the pin up so I can grab it and pull it out. And then be careful, there's a little spring in here as well. Don't lose those little springs. And then let's go ahead and clean this part. Now to reinsert these pawls, the spring part is going to go onto the top of the pawl, and the triangular part of the pawl is going to be facing out. So I'll just line the little spring part there. It's going to go on top, and it's got the little part here that's going to go to the back. So insert this into the little spot there. Put a little bit of oil onto the pin. The tapered end is going to go down. Just insert that into the hole there. Get it lined up with the spring and the pawl. There. And then test the pawl. That works. Let's do the other one. Okay. So the triangular part faces out. Get the spring all set there. Get it set in there. A little bit of oil onto the pin. There. And then test it. Just like that. Now we pulled bearings out of this earlier, so let's go ahead and clean this up. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of grease, run it down around the race to help it hold the bearings in place. Like that. And I pulled 24 bearings out, so I'm going to put 24 bearings back in. Just drop them in place. Take this little ring that was on top and then tap it down around. And then set that aside. Here's the little driver part that I pulled bearings out of earlier. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up before I reinstall new bearings. Okay, so I've got this part all cleaned up now, and I'm going to go ahead and run a little bit of grease around the bearing race in there. And I'm also going to put some grease down inside the bearings here. Some brand new bearings. And I'm going to put the bearings in with the flat side of the cage facing up. And then I've got this little retainer ring that I pulled out. That's going to go in with kind of the open side facing up the way I pulled it out. And then I'm going to press this in as best I can. Like that. So now the nice fresh bearings in there. Like, set this aside. Now I need to reinstall the bearings into the non-drive side of the wheel. So clean out the race there. Spread a little bit of grease around the race. Put some grease into the bearings. Drop the bearings into place. and then go ahead and press the little retainer ring into place to hold them in. Okay, I'm ready to start putting this thing back together here. I have the axle into a vise to kind of hold it. The sun gear is here. There's this little opening here is facing up. I'm going to take the little planetary gear assembly here and slide that onto here and turn it so that the planetary gears engage with the sun gear. The pawls are facing down. Take a little bit of the oil and apply it to the planetary gears. And we also want to oil the pawls a little bit. Get all those lubricated. So those are all lubricated there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the clutch sleeve, slide this on, and then the clutch slides like right on top of there, and it goes flat with these little parts here go like right in top of, right between the pins from the planetary gears. Then we're going to take this little pin here. There's like little flat sides on each end. Let's see, so we'll slide this in through this hole in the clutch sleeve, and it's going to go through the slot. Let's see here. It's going to go through the slot there, and we want the flat sides facing up. And then we're going to take the indicator pin here, slide this down through here, and that will screw into this little pin there, into those threads in the center. That way if we lift up on there, just like that, and that'll help keep this little pin here aligned so it's facing the right direction with the flat sides facing up. The next thing we're going to install is this little part here, and there's two little notches right on either side here, and they're going to line up with the pins. So I'm going to put up like that, slide that, and then rotate it so that it fits on top of that little pin there. Next, I'm going to install the gear ring. That's going to go over here, and it'll come down, and it should mesh with the planetary gears. Yeah, just like that. I want to go ahead and apply just a little bit of lubricant to these pawls up here so that they move nice and smoothly up here, down below. Then I'm going to install the ball cup here. The opening here with the little notches for the pawls is going to face down. So I'll slide this over here, and I'm going to have to press the pawls in so that it slides over those. And if you rotate it, you can kind of hear them ratchet, and it'll only turn the one way. Okay, next I'm going to install the spring. I'll slide this over a little chain there. Slide that down. This little washer here, it's got a little opening in the bottom where it meshes up with the spring. I'll slide that down. Then I'm going to take this little driver unit with these opening parts facing down, just like this. And if I rotate it, it'll mesh down like that. Now, holding that down, I'm going to take the cone with the race part facing down, mesh or thread this onto the axle and then rotate it down. I'm going to hold the driver unit down just to make it easier to install the cone. Okay, thread this down till it hits the bearings and it's finger tight. Then back it off a quarter of a turn. Slide the cone lock washer on and make sure that the little edges down here hold onto the cone there. And then we're going to take this little lock nut here and put that on. And we can go ahead and tighten that down. And then make sure it turns nice and smoothly here. There, like that. Okay, now I'm ready to install the hub assembly into the hub shell. And what you want to do, just go ahead and insert it in here, and you can grab onto this part here. Just kind of turn this counterclockwise. That'll allow the pawls to fall down into the little parts down below, and then you should be able to tighten this. Just tighten by hand first when it gets in there. Then using the punch and the hammer that I used before to loosen it, go ahead and just tap it tighter. And you don't have to worry about getting it super tight, because as you're riding the bike, just riding it or riding up a hill, everything, it will naturally just make this tighter and tighter. So there. Now go ahead and install these little spacers that we took out from underneath the sprocket. I'm going to go ahead and install the sprocket. There's little notches in there, and they're going to line up with the little notches in there. And remember, the curved side faces out. And then I'm going to take this little split ring here and spread that on there to hold the sprocket on. Okay, after you get the sprocket on, go ahead and flip the wheel over. Okay, now I want to go ahead and install the cone. I've installed it with the race facing in. Go ahead and screw that on. Tighten it finger tight. Install the little spacer washer, and then put the lock nut on and make sure that it's threaded properly. You don't want to cross thread this. There we go. Now normally I would use a cone wrench. Unfortunately, the cone wrench is not going to fit between the lip and the spacer on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a screwdriver to hold the edge of the cone while I tighten the lock nut at top. So that's the best I can really do here. Then check it, make sure that it turns freely. It does. So now I'm going to go ahead and install first this washer here that is designed to fit on the flats there. And I want the kind of rough part facing out. Then I have another round washer here with the knurled side. I want that facing in. And then I'll put the nut here. Again, don't make sure you don't cross thread this. There we go. Flip the wheel over. Install the little washer here. It's a little lock washer with the rough parts facing out. Another washer here with a knurled side facing in. And then I have this little part here. I threaded the let me see, I go ahead and I can screw this on first. Don't tighten it down all the way. Then I have the indicator pin. Thread this down through there. And then push it down, kind of, and then just turn it clockwise. It'll thread in to the little clutch pin. And if you pull it, you can kind of feel it and engage with the clutch there. Take the little plastic part, thread the chain through there. Go ahead and just snap that on there. And then as you pull that, you can kind of feel it engage. And done. And that is how you overhaul, clean, and lube a Sturmey Archer hub. Hope that helps.